The diplomatic vessel moved silently through space toward the bright planet ahead. Inside the ship, Kang Do-yun stood at the window and watched the alien world grow larger. His hands were sweating. He wiped them on his uniform pants for the third time in 10 minutes. Nervous? Captain Park Min-ho walked up beside him with 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Do-yun. Terrified, Do-yun admitted. He took the coffee gratefully. We've been preparing for this meeting for 2 years. If I mess this up, the war might actually start. Min-ho laughed and patted his shoulder. You won't mess up. You're the best diplomat we have. That's why Ambassador Choi picked you for this mission. Do-yun wasn't so sure. The Valerian Empire controlled half the known galaxy. They were powerful, advanced, and extremely proud. Humans had only achieved faster than light travel 50 years ago. To the Valerians, humanity was young and primitive. For decades, the 2 civilizations had circled each other like cautious animals. One wrong move could mean war. The ship landed on Luminous Prime 3 hours later. Do-yun adjusted his formal uniform in the mirror. Ambassador Choi Hye-jin appeared beside him, calm and elegant as always. Remember, she said quietly, the Valerians value honesty above all else. They can sense lies through their telepathy. Don't try to hide your feelings. Just be respectful and genuine. Do-yun nodded. His throat felt dry. The landing ramp lowered and bright light flooded in. Do-hyun walked down the ramp behind Ambassador Choi. The Valerian capital city stretched before them, all silver towers and floating platforms. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. A line of Valerian officials waited at the bottom of the ramp. They were tall and elegant with silver skin that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Their eyes were large and completely black, showing no emotion that Do-hyun could read. At the center of the group stood someone different. She was shorter than the others, and her silver skin had a warmer tone. She wore long ceremonial robes of deep blue that trailed behind her. When she looked at Do-hyun, her eyes flashed gold for just a moment. Welcome to Luminous Prime, she said in perfect English. Her voice was musical. I am Princess Yura of House Vel. My father, the Emperor, has assigned me to be your cultural liaison during your stay. Ambassador Choi bowed in the Valerian style, and Do-hyun copied her movement. We are honored, Princess. Thank you for receiving us. The ceremony began. It was long and formal, full of ritual words and careful gestures. Do-hyun tried to focus, but he kept noticing Princess Yura. She stood perfectly still like all the other Valerians, but something about her seemed different. Her eyes kept changing color slightly, shifts so small he almost missed them. The ceremony moved into the palace. They walked through halls of crystalline light. Do-hyun was so busy looking around that he didn't notice when Princess Yura stumbled on her long robes. She fell forward, and without thinking, Do-hyun reached out and caught her. For a moment, they froze. Her hand was in his. Her eyes were wide with surprise, and they had turned bright gold. The other Valerians stopped walking and turned to stare. The silence was heavy. Then Princess Yura did something unexpected. She laughed. It was a light, genuine sound that seemed to surprise her as much as everyone else. The other Valerians looked shocked. One of them, an older male with dark robes, frowned deeply. I apologize, Princess Yura said, but she was smiling. These ceremonial robes are difficult to walk in. Thank you for catching me, Diplomat Do-hyun. I'm glad I could help, Do-hyun said. He released her hand quickly, suddenly aware that he might have broken some important rule. The ceremony continued, but the atmosphere had changed. The Valerian officials whispered to each other in their own language. Ambassador Choi gave Do-hyun a look that he couldn't quite read. That evening, Do-hyun was in his assigned quarters when a message arrived. Princess Yura requested his presence in the East Garden. He looked at Captain Min-ho, who had come to check on him. Is this normal? Do-hyun asked. I have no idea, Min-ho admitted, but you can't refuse a princess. I'll come with you. No, Do-hyun said. If she wanted a group, she would have invited one. I'll go alone. The East Garden was on a high terrace overlooking the city. Night had fallen, and 3 moons hung in the sky, painting everything in soft silver light. Princess Yura stood at the edge of the terrace, looking out at the view. She had changed from her ceremonial robes into simpler clothes. Thank you for coming, she said when Do-hyun approached. I wanted to apologize for this afternoon. I embarrassed you in front of the court. You didn't embarrass me, Do-hyun said. I was worried I embarrassed you by touching you without permission. Yura turned to face him, and her eyes flashed that golden color again. In Valerian culture, we do not laugh during formal ceremonies. It is considered immature and emotional. But when you caught me, I felt, I don't know the word in your language, surprised and happy at the same time. Delighted, Do-hyun suggested. Yes, delighted. She smiled again, smaller this time. My people gave up many emotions long ago. We believed logic and telepathy were superior. But sometimes I feel like we lost something important. Do-hyun didn't know what to say. This was not the conversation he expected to have with an alien princess. What do you mean? Your people make art and music. You laugh and cry freely. You feel things deeply. Valerians consider this weakness, but I have studied your culture. I think perhaps it is strength. They talked for 2 hours. Yura asked him about Earth, about oceans and rain and forests. Lumena's Prime was a desert world with artificial water systems. She had never seen natural rain. Do-hyun told her about his childhood in Seoul, about the river and the mountains. She listened with an intensity that made him feel like his words were the most important thing in the universe. Would you like to visit my ship tomorrow? Do-hyun asked before he left. We have music and art from Earth, I could show you. Yura's eyes turned golden again. I would like that very much. Do-hyun walked back to his quarters feeling strange. He had come to this planet to negotiate treaties and prevent war. He had not expected to make a friend, especially not a friend who was an alien princess with glowing skin and eyes that changed color with her emotions. Captain Minho was waiting in his room. So what happened? I think, Do-hyun said slowly, that things just got more complicated. He had no idea how right he was. In another part of the palace, the old Valerian in dark robes was speaking with the Emperor. Your daughter is spending time with the human, he said. This is dangerous. We should end the negotiations now. But the Emperor was thoughtful. No, let Yura work with them. She needs to understand our enemies before she takes the throne. She will learn that humans cannot be trusted. Neither of them knew that Princess Yura had already learned something different. She had learned that perhaps humans and Valerians were not so different after all, and that realization would change the future of 2 civilizations forever. Princess Yura arrived at the human ship early the next morning. She wore a simple gray dress instead of her royal robes, and she came alone except for one guard who waited at the entrance. Do-hyun met her at the landing bay with a smile. Welcome to the Harmony's dawn, he said. I hope you're ready for something different. I am curious, Yura admitted. Her eyes were pale blue today, which Do-hyun was learning meant she was calm and interested. He showed her through the ship first. She touched everything carefully, asking questions about human technology. In the medical bay, Dr. Kim Ji-woo was working on biological samples. She looked up when they entered and gave Do-hyun a knowing smile that made him feel embarrassed. Princess Yura, this is our chief medical officer, Dr. Kim Ji-woo, Do-hyun said. It is an honor to meet you, Ji-woo said, bowing. Your biology is fascinating. We have learned so much from the medical data your people shared. Yura seemed pleased by this. Your species is fascinating to us as well. You are so diverse. Every human looks different. On my world, all Valerians look similar. We bred ourselves that way thousands of years ago. Diversity is one of our strengths, Do-hyun said. It makes us stronger, not weaker. They continued the tour until they reached the observation deck. It was a large room with windows on all sides showing the stars and the planet below. In the center of the room was a black piano. Yura stopped when she saw it. What is this? She asked. It's a musical instrument, Do-hyun said. A piano. Do you want to hear it? Yura nodded, her eyes turning golden with excitement. Do-hyun sat down at the piano and began to play. He chose a piece by Chopin, something gentle and emotional. The notes filled the quiet room. As he played, he watched Yura from the corner of his eye. Her silver skin began to glow softly, pulsing with light in time with the music. Her eyes cycled through colors, gold to blue to soft purple. When the music ended, tears were running down her face. I'm sorry, she said quickly, wiping her eyes. This is very inappropriate. Valerians do not cry. It's okay, Do-hyun said gently. Music is supposed to make you feel things. We had music once, Yura said quietly, thousands of years ago. But our ancestors decided it was too emotional. too distracting from logic and duty. They forbade it. I have never heard anything like this before. It makes my heart hurt in a way that feels good. Do-hyun stood up from the piano. Your people gave up a lot in the name of logic. Yes, Yura whispered. Sometimes I think we gave up too much. I've always felt like I don't fit with my own people. I feel too much. I want too much. My father says I need to learn control before I can be empress. Before Do-hyun could respond, an alarm blared through the ship. Captain Minho's voice came over the speakers. All personnel, we have an emergency. There's been an attack at the diplomatic compound. Multiple casualties reported. Do-hyun and Yura ran to the bridge. The screens showed smoke and fire rising from a building in the city below. Ambassador Choi was already there, her face tight with worry. What happened? Do-hyun demanded. A terrorist group called the Pure Valerian Movement, Minho explained. They oppose any alliance with humans. They set off bombs in the compound where our cultural exchange team was working. We have people trapped inside. Yura's skin had gone pale and her eyes were black with what Do-hyun now recognized as fear. I must go down there. Those are my people they have hurt. You can't, Ambassador Choi said firmly. You're the crown princess. It's too dangerous. Then I'm going, Do-hyun said. I'm trained in emergency response. We need to evacuate the building before it collapses. I'm going with you, Yura said, her voice hard and royal. Do not argue with me. I can use my telepathy to coordinate rescue efforts. You cannot. Minho looked at Ambassador Choi, who nodded reluctantly. Take a security team, and both of you be careful. The shuttle ride down felt too long. When they arrived, the scene was chaos. Valerian emergency workers were trying to fight the fires, but they seemed disorganized. Do-hyun could hear screaming from inside the damaged building. Yura closed her eyes and reached out with her telepathic abilities. Do-hyun couldn't sense what she was doing, but he saw her body go rigid with concentration. When she opened her eyes, they were bright white. There are 17 people trapped on the 3rd floor, she said. The stairs have collapsed. We need another way in. Do-hyun looked at the building, his mind racing. There, the ventilation shaft on the east side. It's big enough for people to climb through. The rescue took 2 hours. Do-hyun went into the burning building 3 times. His lungs burned from smoke and his hands were cut from broken glass. But each time he went in, he brought someone out. Valerians mostly, but also 2 humans from the cultural exchange team. On his last trip inside, he found a group of Valerian children huddled in a classroom. They were small and terrified, their skin flickering with fear. The ceiling above them was cracking. Come on, Do-hyun said gently, reaching out his hand. I'm going to get you out of here. The oldest child, who looked about 10 in human years, stared at him with wide black eyes. You are human. My teacher says humans are dangerous. Some humans are dangerous, Do-hyun admitted, just like some Valerians are dangerous. But I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help. Please, we don't have much time. The child took his hand. The others followed. Do-hyun led them to the ventilation shaft and helped each one climb up. The last child was just climbing out when the ceiling gave way. Do-hyun jumped aside, but falling debris caught his left arm. Pain exploded through him and he couldn't help but cry out. Yura's voice filled his mind, strong and clear, even though they weren't touching. Do-hyun, where are you? Ventilation shaft. East side, 3rd floor, he thought back, surprised that it worked. My arm is trapped, I can't move. 2 minutes later, Yura appeared through the smoke with a Valerian rescue worker. They lifted the debris off his arm. Yura pulled him up, supporting his weight. You foolish, brave human, she said, her eyes bright gold even through the smoke and tears. You could have died. So could those children, Do-hyun said. His arm hurt terribly, but he managed to smile. Are they safe? All 17 survivors are safe. Thanks to you. They made it outside just as the building collapsed behind them. Do-hyun's legs gave out and he sat down hard on the ground. Dr. Jiwoo rushed over with a medical kit. As she worked on his arm, Do-hyun noticed something. The Valerian emergency workers and civilians were staring at him. not with fear or suspicion, but with something else. Respect. Gratitude. One of the children he had rescued broke away from their parents and ran to him. The child pressed something into his good hand. It was a small crystal pendant, the kind Valerian children wore for good luck. "Thank you for saving us," the child said in halting English. "You are a good human." Do-hyun's throat felt tight. "You're welcome." That evening, news of the rescue spread across both civilizations. Images of Do-hyun carrying Valerian children from the burning building played on every screen. Public opinion about humans shifted dramatically. Maybe these aliens weren't enemies after all, but in the royal palace another drama was unfolding. Lord Kale of House Dra had arrived from the outer systems. He was tall and powerful, a military commander, and Yura's betrothed. He had come to formalize their engagement. When he saw the footage of Yura and Do-hyun working together, his eyes turned dark red with anger. "Who is this human?" he demanded. "Why is my future bride spending so much time with him?" The Emperor tried to calm him. "Yura is doing her duty as cultural liaison. Nothing more." But Lord Kale wasn't convinced. He had seen the way Yura looked at the human in those images. He had seen something that made his blood burn cold. His betrothed was falling in love with the alien diplomat, and Lord Kale would not allow that to happen. Do-hyun's arm healed slowly over the next week. Dr. Jiwoo had done excellent work, but the burns and broken bones needed time. He spent most of his recovery in the observation deck, watching the stars and thinking about everything that had happened. Yura visited him every day. They talked about everything and nothing. She told him about growing up in the palace, always feeling like she had to hide her true self. He told her about Earth, about the mountains and oceans she dreamed of seeing. With each conversation, the connection between them grew stronger. On the 7th day, Lord Kale requested a formal meeting. Do-hyun dressed in his best uniform and went to the throne room with Ambassador Choi. The Emperor sat on his throne with Princess Yura standing to his right. Lord Kale stood on the left, tall and intimidating in his military armor. "Diplomat Kang Do-hyun," Lord Kale said, his voice cold. "You have spent much time with Princess Yura. You have touched her and spoken with her privately. In Valerian culture, such behavior is only acceptable between betrothed partners." Do-hyun felt his heart sink. "I meant no disrespect. I was not aware of this custom." "Ignorance is not an excuse," Lord Kale continued. "You have compromised the honor of the Crown Princess. I challenge you to a duel of worth. If you refuse, you admit guilt and must leave this planet immediately." The throne room went silent. Ambassador Choi looked horrified. Yura's eyes had turned bright red with anger. "Father, this is not necessary," Yura said. "I spent time with diplomat Do-hyun because you ordered me to be his cultural liaison. He has done nothing wrong." "The challenge has been issued," the Emperor said heavily. "It must be answered. Diplomat Do-hyun, what is your response?" Do-hyun looked at Yura. Her eyes were pleading with him to refuse, to leave safely. But if he left now, the alliance would fail. Everything they had worked for would be lost. And more than that, he couldn't leave her behind. "I accept the challenge," Do-hyun said firmly. Lord Kale smiled, showing sharp teeth. "The duel will take place in 3 days, in the arena of stars. Prepare yourself, human." Back on the ship, Captain Minho paced back and forth like a caged animal. "Are you insane? Lord Kale is a trained warrior. He's been fighting for 50 years. You're a diplomat." "I know," Do-hyun said calmly. "But I had no choice. There's always a choice. You could have refused and destroyed the alliance, proven that humans are cowards." Do-hyun shook his head. "No, I have to do this." Commander Lee Sunmi appeared in the doorway. She was the ship's chief security officer, a woman with sharp eyes and quick movements. "I heard what happened. I can help you train." For 3 days, Sunmi put Do-hyun through intensive training. She taught him basic Valerian combat stances and movements, but more importantly, she taught him about the duel of worth. "It's not just physical combat," she explained. "Valerians use these duels to test character and wisdom. Lord Kale will expect you to fight like a warrior, but that's not your strength. You need to think like a diplomat." "What do you mean?" "Find another way to win. Change the rules of the game." Meanwhile, Yura was conducting research of her own. In the ancient archives deep beneath the palace, she met with Elder Karos, a historian so old his skin had turned almost white. "Tell me about the old laws," Yura demanded. The ones from before the Great Logic. Elder Karo studied her with wise eyes. You seek the right of proving, the law that allowed our ancestors to choose their own partners based on merit rather than political arrangement. Yes. Can it still be invoked? In theory, yes, but it has not been used in over 1,000 years. You would need the support of 3 great houses, and you would need to prove that your choice serves the Empire's greater good. He paused, and you would have to declare it publicly before the duel ends. Yura's younger brother, Prince Terran, found her in the archives that night. He was only 18, young and idealistic, with eyes that were always bright with curiosity. I know what you're planning, he said quietly, and I support you. My house will stand with you when you invoke the right. That's only 1 house, Yura said. I need 3. Then we find 2 more. Yura, I've studied human culture. They're not our enemies. They're potential partners. Father is wrong about them. The day of the duel arrived. The Arena of Stars was an ancient place, carved from pure crystal that reflected the light of the 3 moons. Thousands of Valerians gathered to watch, and the event was broadcast across both civilizations. Do-hyun stepped onto the arena floor wearing simple combat clothes. Lord Kale stood opposite him, armed with traditional Valerian weapons, blades that glowed with energy. Do-hyun was unarmed. You come to a duel without weapons? Lord Kale asked with contempt. You have already lost, human. I come with the only weapon I trust, Do-hyun replied. My words, the crowd murmured in confusion. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. The duel begins. First blood or submission wins. Lord Kale advanced, weapons ready, but Do-hyun didn't move into a fighting stance. Instead, he spoke, his voice carrying across the silent arena. Lord Kale, you challenge me to prove my worth. But what is worth? Is it the ability to hurt others? Is it strength of arm alone? He paused. I submit that true worth is measured by what we build, not what we destroy. By the bridges we create, not the walls we maintain. Lord Kale hesitated, confused by this tactic. Do-hyun continued. You are a great warrior. You have defended your empire for decades. That is honorable. But I ask you, what happens when strength alone is not enough? What happens when the real enemy cannot be defeated by weapons? There is no such enemy, Lord Kale growled. There is fear, ignorance, the belief that anyone different from us is automatically our enemy. Do-hyun looked up at the crowd, speaking to all of them now. 3 weeks ago, terrorists attacked our compound because they feared change. They feared connection. And what did fear accomplish? It killed innocent people, both Valerian and human. The crowd was completely silent now, listening. I am just one human, Do-hyun said. I am not a warrior or a politician. I am a diplomat. My strength is not in fighting, but in understanding, in listening, in finding common ground where others see only differences. He turned back to Lord Kale. You can kill me if you want. You will win this duel. But what will you have proven? That you are stronger than a diplomat? Everyone already knows that. Lord Kale's weapons lowered slightly. His eyes flickered with uncertainty. I respect your strength, Lord Kyle, Do-hyun said. But I challenge you to show me your wisdom. Ask yourself what truly serves your empire. Protecting old traditions that no longer work? Or adapting, growing, becoming something greater? For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Lord Kale did something that shocked everyone. He lowered his weapons completely. You speak well, human, he said slowly. Perhaps too well. You ask what serves the empire, but I see what threatens it. The crown princess looks at you with golden eyes. She laughs in your presence. She risks her life for you. This is not acceptable. Why? Do-hyun asked quietly. Because I am human? Because I am different? Because you make her feel, Lord Kale said, and suddenly his voice was full of pain. Because you give her something I cannot, and that terrifies me. The confession hung in the air. Then Yura's voice rang out across the arena. Stop this duel. I invoke the right of proving. She stepped onto the arena floor, her ceremonial robes flowing behind her. The crowd gasped. The Emperor stood up from his throne, his eyes dark with shock. Yura, what are you doing? He demanded. I invoke the ancient law that allows royalty to choose their own partner if that choice serves the Empire's greater good. Yura said clearly. Her eyes were bright gold and her skin glowed with determination. I choose Kang Do-hyun as my consort, and I will prove to this court that an alliance with humanity, sealed by our marriage, will make this empire stronger than it has ever been. The arena erupted in chaos. Some Valerians shouted in anger, others in surprise. But three voices rose above the rest. House Vel supports Princess Yura, Prince Terran declared. House Dra supports the princess, Lord Kale said quietly, and everyone went silent in shock. If she believes in this human, then perhaps I have been wrong. Perhaps tradition has blinded me to truth. House Karos supports the right of proving. Elder Karos's ancient voice echoed through the arena. Let the princess prove her choice. Yura had her 3 houses. The right was officially invoked. But before she could say anything more, alarms began blaring across the city. Emergency broadcasts lit up every screen. An invasion fleet had entered the system. The Crick swarm had arrived. The arena of stars emptied quickly as people rushed home to their families. Do-hyun ran with Yura toward the palace command center. Behind them, Captain Minho, Ambassador Choi, Lord Kale, and Prince Terran followed. Politics and duels didn't matter anymore. The Crick swarm had come and they were all in danger. The command center was chaos. Valerian military officers shouted orders while holographic displays showed dozens of alien ships entering the system. The ships looked like enormous insects made of dark metal, pulsing with sickly green light. The Emperor stood at the center of the room with War Master Zevek, his chief military commander. Zevek was old and scarred, a veteran of countless battles. His eyes were permanently dark red from years of combat stress. How many ships? The Emperor demanded. 70 confirmed, Zevek replied. More jumping in every minute. This is the largest swarm fleet we've ever seen. Yura moved to her father's side. We need to evacuate the civilian centers. Already in progress, Zevek said. But we don't have enough ships. Many people will be trapped. Do-hyun stepped forward. The human fleet is 3 days away, but we have transport ships in orbit. We can help with evacuation. Zevek looked at him with cold eyes. Human ships are slow and poorly armed. They will be destroyed. Then we protect them with Valerian fighters, Do-hyun said. Work together. We do not fight alongside humans, Zevek said flatly. Then you will die alone, Ambassador Choi said, her voice sharp. She had arrived with Admiral Han Jisoo, commander of the nearby human fleet, visible on a holographic screen. Admiral Han was a severe woman with gray hair and calculating eyes. The swarm doesn't care about your politics, Admiral Han said from her ship. They will consume this planet and everyone on it. Then they will move to human colonies. We can fight separately and both lose, or we can fight together and maybe survive. The Emperor looked between his military commander and the human admiral. His expression was anguished. War Master Zevek, your opinion? Emperor, I do not trust humans, Zevek said slowly. But I trust the swarm even less. They are predictable. They attack, they consume, they move on. Humans at least can be reasoned with. He paused. I recommend temporary cooperation. Very well, the Emperor said. Commander Zevek, work with Admiral Han, coordinate our defenses. The next hours were frantic. Human and Valerian officers who had never worked together tried to integrate their tactics and technology. It was difficult. Valerians communicated through telepathy, instantly sharing information. Humans used radios and computers, slower but less vulnerable to interference. Do-hyun found himself in a planning room with Yura, Lord Kyle, Captain Minho, and several Valerian military officers. They were trying to coordinate fleet positions. The swarm always targets the largest ships first, one Valerian officer explained. They want to eliminate our command structure. So we use smaller, faster ships as our main attack force, Minho suggested. Human fighters are perfect for that. They're quick and hard to track. But they lack firepower, Lord Kale countered. Valerian ships hit harder. Then we combine them, Yura said suddenly. Human fighters provide speed and maneuverability. Valerian ships provide heavy weapons. They work as pairs. The officers looked skeptical, but Do-hyun saw the wisdom in it. It could work, but they need a way to communicate effectively. Dr. Jiwoo, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. What about music? Everyone turned to stare at her. The swarm uses pheromones and bioelectric signals to coordinate, Jiwoo explained. They can jam our radios and interfere with Valerian telepathy. But they can't interpret human music. We could use musical patterns as tactical commands, like drums for attack, flutes for retreat, strings for formation changes. That's insane, Zevek said. That's human, Minho said with a grin, and it might just work. They had 12 hours to prepare before the swarm reached the planet. Human technicians and Valerian engineers worked together to set up audio transmission systems. Fighter pilots from both species practiced the new musical commands. It was rough and imperfect, but it was something. Ambassador Nam Yuna, a human politician who had been opposing the alliance, tried one last time to stop the cooperation. She confronted Ambassador Choi in the human ship's conference room. "This is a mistake," Nam insisted. "If we integrate our forces with the Valerians, we'll lose our independence. They'll control us. If we don't integrate, we'll all die," Choi replied. "Sometimes survival requires trust. And what about after? When the battle is over? You think they'll just let us leave?" "I think," Choi said carefully, "that after fighting side by side, we won't want to leave. We'll want to build something together." On the Valerian side, similar arguments were happening. Nobles who opposed human contact protested to the Emperor. But the Emperor had made his decision. Survival first, politics later. The swarm arrived at dawn. 70 ships darkened the sky, blotting out the 3 moons. On the ground, millions of Valerians huddled in shelters. In orbit, the combined human-Valerian fleet prepared to fight. Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Harmony's Dawn next to Captain Minho. Yura was on the Valerian command ship with her father, but Do-hyun could feel her presence somehow, as if their connection had grown even without touching. "All ships, this is Admiral Han," the human commander's voice came over the speakers. "Today we fight not as separate species but as allies. We fight for our homes, our families, and our future. Let's show the swarm what happens when humanity and Valeria stand together. Begin Operation Harmony." The first wave of swarm fighters attacked. They moved in perfect coordination, like a school of metal fish. The combined fleet moved to meet them, and the battle began. It was chaos. Green energy weapons lit up the darkness. Ships exploded in silent flashes. But slowly the new tactics began to work. Human fighters darted in and out, too fast for the swarm to track effectively. Valerian ships followed, using their heavy weapons when the swarm formations broke apart. On the human ships, speakers blasted Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. The aggressive drum beats signaled attack patterns. When the music shifted to smoother strings, the fleet changed to defensive formations. The swarm couldn't understand or predict these signals, but the swarm was learning. They adapted their tactics, focusing fire on the smaller human ships. Casualties mounted. A human destroyer exploded near the planet, taking 3 Valerian fighters with it. "We're losing too many ships," Minho said grimly, watching the tactical display. Do-hyun had an idea. "The swarm has a hive structure. They all connect to command ships. If we take out their command structure, the smaller ships should become disorganized." "We've tried that before." Zevek's voice came over the communication channel. "Their command ships are too well protected. Not if we concentrate all our firepower on a single target," Admiral Han said. "All ships prepare for synchronized strike. Target the central command vessel. That will leave our flanks exposed," Zavek warned. "I know," Han replied, "but we're out of options." The music changed to Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries, the signal for all-out assault. Every human and Valerian ship capable of firing turned their weapons on one massive swarm command ship. For 10 seconds, space itself seemed to tear apart from the concentrated energy. The swarm command ship's shields failed. Then its hull cracked. Then it exploded in a blast that could be seen from the planet's surface. Immediately, the other swarm ships faltered. Their perfect coordination broke down. They began firing randomly, even hitting each other. The combined fleet pressed the advantage, destroying confused swarm fighters by the dozens. After 6 hours of battle, the surviving swarm ships retreated, jumping to faster-than-light speed and fleeing the system. The combined fleet had won, but at terrible cost. 20 human ships destroyed, 30 Valerian vessels lost, thousands dead on both sides, but they had survived. Together. In the aftermath, something remarkable happened. Human and Valerian rescue teams worked side by side, pulling survivors from damaged ships. Human medics treated wounded Valerians. Valerian engineers repaired human vessels. The barriers between species began to crumble. On the planet's surface, news broadcasts showed footage of the battle. Both human and Valerian civilians watched in awe as their defenders fought together. Ambassador Nam quietly withdrew her opposition to the alliance. Several Valerian nobles who had protested human contact publicly reversed their positions. Emperor Vex called a meeting of the High Council. Do-hyun and Yura stood before them, exhausted but alive. The Emperor's eyes were sad but proud. "Princess Yura," he said formally, "you invoked the right of proving. You claimed that alliance with humanity would strengthen our empire. I believe you have proven your case. But there is one final requirement. He looked at Do-Yun. The consort of a Valerian royal must undergo the trial of unity. Your mind must bond with hers telepathically. For humans, this process is extremely dangerous. Previous attempts with other species resulted in death. Do you still wish to proceed? Do-Hyun looked at Yura. Her eyes were golden and full of worry. He could back out now. No one would blame him. But he had come too far, risked too much to turn away now. I do, Do-Yun said. When do we begin? Do-Yun had 3 days to prepare for the trial of unity. Dr. Jiwoo worked around the clock to develop neural stabilizers that might protect his brain from damage. The survival rate for non-Valerians attempting telepathic bonding with royalty was low. About 40%, Jiwoo admitted quietly. Those who survived were often left with permanent mental damage. You don't have to do this, she told Do-Hyun on the second day. We've already achieved the alliance. You've done enough. I have to, Do-Hyun said. Not for the alliance. For her. Captain Minho brought him to meet Shaman Kai, a spiritual guide from a human colony world. Kai was an old man with kind eyes and weathered hands. He taught Do-Hyun meditation techniques to strengthen his mind and prepare for the psychic assault of the trial. The Valerian mind is vast and ancient, Kai explained. When you bond with Princess Yura, you will experience not just her memories but echoes of all her ancestors. Centuries of knowledge and emotion will flood through you. Most minds cannot handle that much information at once. How do I survive it? Do-Hyun asked. By remembering who you are. Your human identity is your anchor. Hold on to it no matter what you experience. And remember, the bond goes both ways. She will experience your mind as well. Let her see who you truly are. Honesty is your greatest strength. Yura was preparing too in the ancient meditation chambers beneath the palace. She fasted and prayed to long-forgotten Valerian gods. On the night before the trial, she broke protocol and came to Do-Hyun's quarters on the human ship. I'm frightened, she admitted, sitting beside him on the observation deck. The stars shone outside, peaceful and distant. I've never feared anything as much as I fear losing you tomorrow. I'm scared too, Do-Hyun said. He took her hand, something that would have been scandalous weeks ago. Now, after everything they had been through, it felt natural. But I want this. I want to be with you, whatever that means. Why? Yura asked softly. I am alien to you. My world, my culture, even my biology is different. Why would you risk your life for me? Do-Hyun thought carefully before answering. Because when I'm with you, I feel like I've found something I didn't know I was missing. You see the universe with wonder. You feel things deeply even though your culture told you not to. You're brave and kind and brilliant. You make me want to be better, he smiled. And because your eyes turn gold when you're happy, and I want to spend my life making them do that. Yura's eyes did turn gold, bright, and beautiful. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his, a Valerian gesture of deep affection. In my culture, we have a saying, the soul knows its home. When I met you, I understood what that meant for the first time. They sat together until dawn, holding hands and watching the stars. Neither of them slept. The trial of unity took place in the Temple of Ancestors, an ancient building made of crystal that hummed with psychic energy. Hundreds of witnesses gathered. The Emperor sat on a throne with Prince Terran beside him. Lord Kale stood with the other military commanders. Ambassador Choi and Captain Minho represented humanity, looking worried. Do-Hyun and Yura entered the temple barefoot, wearing simple white robes. In the center of the temple was a pool of liquid silver, shimmering with its own light. This was the bonding pool, created by ancient Valerian science and mysticism. High Priestess Vena, an elderly Valerian with pure white skin and silver eyes, performed the ceremony. Princess Yura of House Vel, do you consent to this bonding? I consent, Yura said clearly. Kang Do-Hyun of Earth, do you understand that this bond is permanent and may result in your death? I understand and consent, Do-Hyun replied. Then enter the pool together and open your minds. They stepped into the silver liquid hand in hand. It was warm and tingly like electricity on skin. Do-Hyun felt his consciousness expanding, stretching beyond his body. Then Yura's mind touched his and everything exploded into light. Suddenly he was experiencing her memories. He saw her childhood in the palace, lonely and isolated. He felt her frustration at having to hide her emotions. He experienced her fear when she realized she was falling in love with a human, knowing it would bring conflict. He felt her pride during the battle, fighting alongside both their peoples. But it was too much. The memories kept coming, faster and faster, not just Yura's memories, but her ancestors. Thousands of years of Valerian history flooded through his human brain. Kings and warriors, scientists and artists, all their lives crashing into his mind at once. His consciousness began to fragment. He couldn't remember who he was. Was he Do-hyun or Yura or someone else entirely? The boundaries of self were dissolving. Then he heard music. Chopin's piano piece, the one he had played for Yura that first day. The melody was clear and perfect in his mind. It reminded him of home, of Earth, of who he was. Kang Do-hyun. Diplomat. Human. A man who played piano and loved Korean food and believed in building bridges between different people. He grabbed onto that identity and held it tight. The flood of memories slowed. He could breathe again. And then he realized something. Yura was experiencing his memories too. He felt her surprise and wonder as she saw Earth through his eyes. Oceans and mountains, rain and snow, things her desert world didn't have. She experienced his childhood, his family's warmth, the freedom to laugh and cry openly. She felt his emotions without the burden of shame. She was seeing what she had always wanted. Freedom, expression. A world where feeling things was not weakness, but strength. Their minds intertwined, creating something new. Not Valerian and not human, but both. A bridge between two species built from understanding and love. In the temple, their bodies were glowing, Yura's silver skin and Do-hyun's human flesh radiating the same warm light. The liquid silver in the pool swirled around them, responding to the unprecedented connection. Impossible, High Priestess Venna whispered. The bond is stabilizing. He's surviving. In the shared space of their minds, Do-hyun and Yura encountered something unexpected, a presence warm and maternal. It took the form of a Valerian woman with kind eyes. Mother? Yura's mental voice was full of shock. How are you here? I am an echo preserved in the bloodline, the presence said. I have waited to meet the one who would complete you. Kang Do-hyun, you are brave and true. Take care of my daughter. Help her unite our peoples and create something beautiful. I will, Do-hyun promised. I swear it. The presence faded, leaving a feeling of blessing and approval. Slowly, Do-hyun and Yura's consciousness returned to their bodies. They opened their eyes and looked at each other. They were still holding hands, but now the connection ran deeper than touch. They could sense each other's emotions, thoughts, feelings. The bond was complete. They stepped out of the pool together. The witnesses erupted in amazed chatter. Emperor Vex stood, his eyes wide with shock. It succeeded. The bond is stable. This has never happened with a non-Valerian before. Perhaps, High Priestess Venna said thoughtfully, humans are not as different from us as we believed. 3 days later, the official treaty between the Terran Colonial Alliance and the Valerian Empire was signed. Trade routes were established. Cultural exchange programs were created. Construction began on a joint research station. But everyone knew the real bond between their peoples was more personal. The wedding was planned for 6 months later. During that time, Do-hyun and Yura traveled between worlds, meeting people, giving speeches, showing both civilizations that cooperation was possible. Everywhere they went, the response was the same. Hope, excitement, the feeling that something new and wonderful was beginning. On the day before the wedding, Do-hyun was nervous. Captain Minho found him pacing in his quarters on the new space station, where the ceremony would take place. You already survived a telepathic bonding, Minho said with a laugh. A wedding should be easy. I know, Do-hyun said. But this is real. Tomorrow I'm marrying an alien princess. This is actually happening. Having second thoughts? No, Do-hyun said immediately. I just want everything to be perfect for her. The wedding took place in a grand hall that was half Valerian crystal architecture and half human design. Thousands attended in person, with billions watching across both civilizations. Do-hyun wore a modified traditional Korean hanbok with Valerian decorative elements. Yura's wedding dress was a masterpiece, combining the flowing robes of her people with human lace and silk. Ambassador Choi and Lord Kael co-officiated, reading vows in 3 languages, Korean, Valerian, and the new hybrid language scholars were calling Unity Tongue. But the most important moment came when Do-hyun knelt before Yura with the ring he had made. It was crafted from metals of both their worlds, set with stones from the Nexus system where they had fought together. "Princess Yura," he said, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "From the moment we met, you've shown me that the universe is far more beautiful than I imagined. You taught me that differences don't divide us. They complete us. I stand here not as a diplomat or a representative of humanity, but as someone who loves you for exactly who you are. Will you marry me?" The crowd held its breath. By Valerian tradition, royals were supposed to accept proposals with quiet dignity, but Yura had never been traditional. She smiled, a radiant expression of pure joy that made her skin glow like a star. It was the same smile she had given him when he caught her on their first day together. The same smile that had started everything,